Set to go in the third, 17:20 about to roll. Arms fly back. Best to begin. Pac-Man Hammer come off the gate. Nicely indeed to lead. Over in second placing there would have been Jimmy Douglas with Informality. Next, Neville James in trouble. Then Serenity Sunset, passed by Miss Zoe, and in advance of that pair at that juncture would have been Rock and Roll Doug, heading on down the back. Lead time 7.8. And the leader is Pac-Man Hammer for Luke McCarthy. Goes down the back clear. Jimmy Douglas second on Informality. A break back to Neville James. There followed by Rock and Roll Doug. Miss Zoe pulling out of it. Serenity Sunset has pulled to the outside and takes no further part. They went down the back in 31.6, and the leader is Pac-Man Hammer. Comes off the back with a length advantage over Informality there, followed by Neville James. Starting to take closer order, Rock and Roll Doug. Back at the tail of the field is Glenn McElhinney on Miss Zoe. Heading up to the judge they go. With the bell coming up. First quarter of the mile was 31.6, and the leader is Pac-Man Hammer by a length over Informality. Neville James there, followed by Rock and Roll Doug. Last of the division, Miss Zoe, second quarter of the mile up in 30.7. Heading into the back. Up by the 650 they go. It's Pac-Man Hammer travelling well within himself. Informality hooked away from the pegs now is coming out after him. Further back to Neville James there, followed then by Rock and Roll Doug, and a half length away to Miss Zoe. Heading on down the back they go. And the leader is Pac-Man Hammer. He's working to the 400 with a half length on Informality. Neville James stalking that pair there, followed by Miss Zoe, and further back Rock and Roll Doug. Third quarter of the mile, 30.2. The leader is Pac-Man Hammer. He's got three parts on Informality there, followed down on the inside Neville James. Miss Zoe further back then, and angling is Rock and Roll Doug. Near to the point of the turn they flattened for the run in, and Pac-Man Hammer gave them a go and kicked out about 3 or 4 clear. Down the outside Rock and Roll Doug, Neville James, but this is far too good. And getting to the line now, Luke McCarthy, far too good on this one. Second placing Rock and Roll Doug there, followed in by Neville James. At the back would have been Miss Zoe is last, and second last at that juncture, Informality. Too good, Pac-Man Hammer. Final quarter, 29.6.